It's about the I got to say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. It's picked up by Michigan State. Jalen Watts Jackson, and he scores on the last play of the game.
Ground ball, right side. Cabrera will cut it off. Galarraga covers.
From me, Marius Wakeman.
Penix has the ball, and a pinnacle ball throws it down.
DeBrincat gets it back.
From me, Marius Wakeman.
They score! Raymond!
James Bond got to the throw, and it's caught by St. Greg for a first down.
This is BS Sports.
And away we go. Good evening, friends. I gotta say, as March Madness every year always has its detractors, always has its, people saying, "Oh, is it done? Have we reached the point of no return with March Madness? Are we never going to get the lay highs over Dukes, the Middle Tennessee States over Michigan State? Are we never going to get those upset?" And then, usually those people are routinely wrong, but unfortunately sometimes they are not necessarily wrong. And I gotta deal with people saying that every other year, every so years, whenever there's just a lot of, whenever there's just a lot of chalk, I gotta deal with, oh my gosh, March Madness is over. It's terrible. It's awful. We'll get into it. That'll be the start of the show, just because I think it's top of line right now. But March Madness was great, and we got a great show. We got to talk about all the storylines going into this March Madness. We'll talk about Michigan State's wins, plural, over Bryant and New Mexico State, and looking ahead here at Ole Miss, and just where the bracket stands as it is. We also got a couple of things in the NFL, and by the NFL, I mean the Giants decided to sign two different quarterbacks. They're going to run it with Jameis Winston on a 2-year deal and Russell Wilson. I'll have a little bit more commentary once we get to that segment, but probably not that much. And then baseball's back this Thursday, opening day for the Tigers, and I think for the rest of the league. I believe it's all one day. So we'll talk about baseball, some of the seasons going, or some of the stories going into the season, and we got a little bit of hockey to cover. I'm wearing my Detroit Red Wings shirt. They got a win last night, but I gotta be truthful, and I gotta be honest, and I gotta be a little harsh. So we'll get into it. But all right, so going into March Madness, right now, as far as my bracket goes, I'm about in the middle of my group. I think there was 9 of us. I'm like in 5th place, so I'm about in the middle. None of you care, but I just thought I'd point that out as far as how accurately I've been able to pick to this point. I got a bunch of storylines to get into, but we're going to focus a little bit just going into this with Michigan State, because that's, my team. So Michigan State gets the win against Bryant. They blow them out by over 20 points, 87-62. Just looking at the box score for this game real quick. Jaden Akins had 11 points. Jeremy Fears had 11 points. Chase Richardson had a heck of a game, shooting 3 for 4 from 3, 2 out of 3 of his free throws. You even had Jackson Kohler getting a lot of boards. He had 9 total rebounds in that game, 5 of them on the offensive side. And then even coming out of the bench, you had Cohen Carr with 18 points. It was probably the best game I've ever seen Cohen Carr have. And Trey Holloman, of course, electric from the 3, 4 for 5 in that game. Just a dominant game for Michigan State. It looked like it was going to be a lot closer in the early part of that first half, but then once again, the depth of Michigan State shows itself, and they just absolutely pulverized Bryant. Now, the game that was a little bit more concerning was the New Mexico game. Michigan State was down at the half, and I was pacing. I was nervous. I was like, "Oh, great, here we go. Are we really not going to get out of the first weekend again?" We've only been able to get out of the first weekend one time in the past 5 years, and that was when we went to the Sweet 16 with Tyson Walker and Joey Hauser and all them. But Michigan State, despite shooting less than 30% from 3, 4 for 15, and despite shooting worse overall, shooting 44% from the field, 24 for 54, Michigan State finishes the job, gets the comeback in the second half, as seems typical for this Michigan State team. And once again, I feel like I keep saying this. I'm a bit of a broken record. The depth of Michigan State really makes them a sleeper, I think, to get into the Final Four. And, maybe this will age terribly if they lose to Ole Miss. I'm just telling you, a lot of these teams, if you get into those tough patches in the second half where guys are tired, where you already have your leading scorer's got like 30 points, but he's got to just continue at that rate. If Michigan State continues to have, guys like guys like Jaden Akins be able to have games where he goes 16 points, 7 for 11 from the field, 50% from three. And then you get production from Cohen Carr, who shot 2 for 3 from the field with 8 points. And then Trey Holloman off the bench, Frankie Fiddler off the bench. Didn't expect to be able to give a shout out to Frankie Fiddler in March Madness, but you know what? It's the way it is sometimes. On the other end of it, Michigan State showed that they can win games without Jace Richardson. He had just 6 points. He shot 1 for 10. It was awful. It was frankly, it was probably the worst game I've ever seen Jace Richardson play, and Michigan State still won the game pretty soundly. I believe they covered the spread. They won by almost double digits in this game as well, 71-63. And then they're on to Ole Miss. And just looking at some of the analytics going into this. Season T. I was like, okay, why do they show like the weird going into it? Michigan State is a little bit better from the shooting standpoint, 46-44%. They're a little bit worse on the 3-point stand of it, shooting 31%-34% for Ole Miss. They're a lot better in the free throws, 78-73%. They out rebound them. They out offensive rebound them. They out defensive rebound them. They out assist them. It's more in favor of Ole Miss for the steals, more in favor of Michigan State for the blocks. Michigan State also turns the ball over a little bit more, but they foul a little bit less. That's just going into it. I think it'll be a close game. It'll be a little SEC Big Ten matchup. I think Michigan State certainly is capable of winning. I think they're a very deep team. I think that they are certainly capable of making a Final Four, if not a title run this year. I just think that the depth and the defense and the experience of Tom Izzo goes a long way. So there's that. Now, that's your Michigan State stuff. All right. Wanted to front load that because I know not everybody's going to be interested in that. The other thing I wanted to talk about with March Madness, as well as some of the specific storylines, was this idea that sort of sprung up about, is March Madness dead? If you saw, I didn't see I didn't hear the comment in context. Like I didn't see the whole video. I heard the quote, or I read the quote from Stephen A. Smith, who said, if this continues, i.e. the chalk, then March Madness is, done. That is not, it's not going to go well. Now, I want to set the record straight on this because I think both sides of this debate about is March Madness done because the upsets are gone, or is March Madness great because the upsets are less frequent and we're just getting the best teams? I want to set both of these sides straight because I think both of these sides are incorrect. Ultimately, what everybody wants is a good and entertaining game. And I don't care if it's Alabama State and Auburn playing a good game. I know they didn't. I'm just bringing it up. Or if it's Illinois, Purdue. I don't know. Whatever matchup you want to do. Illinois, Kentucky. It doesn't matter to me if it's two teams that are high-seeded, middle-seeded, low-seeded, whatever. If the game is good, people are going to be intrigued. The reason that I know that's true is because you look at the past games where you had those buzzer beaters, or you had those, crazy upsets like last year with Oakland over Kentucky. People just want good games. I'm not saying, for all the people who say, we just want the best teams to play each other. And when you get the upsets, who wants to see the Sweet 16 where a team gets blown out? Well, for one, there's no guarantee that doesn't happen with all the teams who got through. I mean, for one, you got a 10 seed in Arkansas taking on a 3 seed. On paper, that should be a blowout. You have a 5 seed in Michigan who's been playing really well, but we've seen Michigan in bigger moments against really good teams just completely fall apart. Did anybody else miss the Michigan State game to end the year? I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but to say because we have, high seeded teams because we didn't have, Yale getting to the Sweet 16. Therefore, we're going to have better games. I just think that's a false dichotomy. It's just not true. Like, you're going to have good games regardless necessarily of the seeding. You could have 2 number 1 overall seeds in the national championship. It could be a blowout. Shout out last year. I'm pretty sure UConn and Purdue were both number 1 seeds last year, and UConn blew the doors off of them. The final score does not indicate how not close that game was. And I don't think it was, I don't even remember what the final score was. Either way, I just wanted to get rid of that because for the people who are saying, oh my gosh, it's so awful, the magic is gone. First of all, these games are really entertaining. Even the Alabama State-Auburn game. Okay, the final score, it was a blowout. But that game was a lot closer at a lot of different points than I think a lot of people. I was like, oh my gosh, is this going to happen? Are we going to see another 16 seed do the thing? Is Bruce Pearl going to Bruce Pearl? And obviously he did not. But you even have games like, look, there was the Maryland-Colorado State game. That game was down to the wire. Colorado State had a very good shot of making the Sweet 16 to take on Florida. Even the Florida game, Florida-UConn, that was an crazy and incredibly entertaining game. You had the UConn Huskies have a chance to take down the number 1 seed. Like, regardless of the result, the game itself was entertaining. And to expect that every single game is going to be buzzer beater, Oakland beating Kentucky, UCLA going to the Final Four despite being a play-in team, that's just not real life. All right? That's not real life. I love it regardless of whether or not we get nothing but 1 seed or if we have, a bunch of 15, 10, and 8 seeds in it. Just entertainment. All right. If the games are entertaining, I'm into it. And the games usually are entertaining. So on that point, I got a couple of things I want to just briefly shout out. Number 1 seeds are absolutely destroying pretty much everybody. Outside of that Florida-UConn game, Duke massacred Mount St. Mary's. 93-49. You would have thought Mount St. Mary's was like a high school team. It was bad. And then Baylor, who I thought, Baylor got a good head coach, not that far removed from the national championship, dead. No, Duke just completely murdered them. I wouldn't be surprised, frankly, if they do something very similar against Arizona. On the other side of it, look, Auburn, obviously I mentioned the fact that Alabama State game, it was a little close for a little bit, but once they got locked in, they were locked in. They just destroyed Alabama State. They destroyed Auburn. They destroyed Creighton, and Florida murdered Norfolk State. That game was never any close. Obviously, again, I already mentioned the UConn-Florida game. Houston, I got to be honest. I didn't know that SIU Edwardsville was a real school, and I'm even more convinced it is not a real school because that game was. I was watching the games. I was working, and I had it on I was working from home, and I had the games on my multi-view on my television, and I'm like, I'm kind of going back and forth, and then I see it's like 30-2, and I'm like, is the scoreboard bug? Because I wasn't. Nope, they were just killing them. And then obviously they beat Gonzaga. Gonzaga, it wasn't a blowout, at least by the final score, but again, I don't think anybody really thought Gonzaga was going to do that much, and I don't feel great about Purdue going into that game against Houston. But either way, the number 1 seeds utterly dominant. Arkansas beating Kansas and then number 2 St. John's. That to me is the most interesting as far as upsets go. Calipari getting rid of the allegations of tournament choker, I guess. Look, win a championship without Anthony Davis, and then I'll remove myself from that. But yeah, and then also I'd be remiss without mentioning Michigan staying alive and potentially still setting up that Elite Eight matchup between Michigan and Michigan State. Very interesting matchup. I think the storylines, I think CBS is rooting for that as far as ratings go, because you got to think that would be one of the most watched college basketball games, given the fact that obviously you had the logo gate and, Michigan kind of turning it on after that blowout loss to Michigan State, and Michigan State wanting to continue to cement itself as the top of the Big Ten, because you have Michigan winning the Big Ten tournament and Michigan State winning the Big Ten regular season. So I think there is a lot of good storylines there. And then finally, UConn and Dan Hurley go down. Obviously, I mentioned that game a myriad of times at this point. And many people are calling Dan Hurley a baby. And I'm not going to defend Dan Hurley complaining about the refs in the media. That's I understand it. Like, this is what all coaches do, but also, like, don't go like 0 for 4 in your last 4 possessions of the game, and then maybe you won't have to worry about that. I don't remember if that's the exact stat, but there was like a point where it's like you had the chances to ice this game, and your players just didn't. But I will say this: people, I guess, wanting him to shut up or people wanting him to stop being who he is, that I think is wrong too. Dan Hurley is exactly what college basketball needs. He's entertaining. He is a crazy human being, and he may or may not actually be a real psychopath. That also kind of goes with number 2 there, but I'm pretty sure he's actually a psychopath. And I, for one, support psychopathy in a college basketball setting, because the more guys that are like Tom Izzo or I guess in this Dan Hurley or Coach K, I need more. Or Roy Williams was another one. I need more psychopathic behavior in college sports in general, but especially in college basketball. He is a must-see TV. I don't even really care that much about UConn, but just watching that UConn game and seeing him on the sideline, it's amazing. I think anybody could get into it. I think if you don't watch college sports, if you don't watch sports in general, you can get into Dan Hurley going absolutely insane every time a foul is called or every time a guy misses a shot or whatever. It's great. I love it. So, look, I know a lot of people are dogging on the March Madness. I think it's great. The Sweet 16 has been set. We'll see what ends up happening on Thursday night, and then Michigan State and Michigan both playing on Friday night. So, look, it's something to look out for. What I don't really like, though, is despite the fact that we have a lot of games, we're starting at like 7. And then you got games going until like 9:30. It's like, start at like 4 or 5. Like, what are we doing? You started the other games at noon, so you can't say, oh, we don't want to miss the work, the people who are working. Man, let me tell you something. All right. As somebody who did work both of those days, we're watching the games. We're following it. Okay. Like, you're not losing viewership. This is one of those things that just gets, like, people are just going to be interested. So, I don't know. I wish that they would not schedule it so late, but I'm also glad that Michigan State is playing on a Friday night and not playing at 10 o'clock at night, because that was brutal. I did not get a great night of sleep basically until, well, actually, I don't think I really have. See, this is why. This is all college basketball has to do is not put these games starting at 10 o'clock at night, and I would be so much better off. But of course, why would they have to do that? Was the NCAA planning on having a Michigan versus Michigan State Elite 8 game since the selection show? I mean, I know it's the NCAA tournament, but it's not like the NCAA, like it's the committee is determining the seating and everything. I don't know if it's the NCAA exactly, but whoever it is that's deciding it, yes, I do think that that's a consideration. I think when they make these seedings, like, yeah, they're obviously considering the team as it is, but as far as where they put them, yeah, they're obviously considering these sorts of matchups. I mean, even if you look, you have the potential, you already had the potential Calipari-Patino matchup that happened, so they got that. Maybe you get some of these other ones. Maybe you get Alabama-Duke. Those are two. Nate Oates and Nate Oates is the coach, but Cooper Flagg, the player, and Alabama's a big market, a big college market, I should say. Too bad people got used to these big upsets that have been going for the past few years, and because of that, people are expecting it to happen and are now calling it boring when it doesn't happen. See, that's the thing. Like, to me, that it's like you can't have it both ways. Like, you get upset when the upsets happen because, oh my gosh, they're just going to get blasted in the Elite Eight, or they're just going to get blasted in the Sweet 16. It sucks. But then when they don't happen, oh my gosh, March Madness is over. Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. What happened to all the upsets? It's like, man, I just want good games. I don't like it. The upsets are fun, so I'm all for them happening. As far as just a entertainment product standpoint goes. And there's no guarantee which game is going to be quote unquote good and which game is going to be quote unquote bad. I mean, sure. I think everybody expected SIU Edwardsville and Houston to be a bad game. But do people think that Alabama State and Auburn at any point in that game was going to be close? I certainly didn't. UConn being cooked was clear many months ago when they were ranked 2 and went 0-3 in the Maui tournament, with 2 of those losses coming against non-tournament teams. This is true. Yeah, UConn really they struggled out of the gate, but you know what? They had already won back-to-back national championships. At a certain point, you just kind of run out of gas. It's hard to win 3 tournaments, let alone make that many tournament runs. So, yeah, no, it's unfortunate because again, Dan Hurley is must-see TV for me. I don't know. I think he's hysterical. A lot of people get tired of it, but I think it's maybe I'm just old and I don't care as much, but I find it all hysterical. All right. So that's enough March Madness. We'll talk about it next week. Obviously, there's going to be more to talk about. So I want to just briefly talk about this NFL news just because it is somewhat recent and also there's not a whole lot of NFL news, so I just want to go with it. Oh yeah, the business playing without K today. Yeah, they're putting him on load management at this point, which I hate. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he actually can't play. So, it's the Spurs. It's a pretty close game right now, although it's on commercial. So, but either way, I want to just briefly talk about this NFL stuff. The Giants. First, I was like, okay, finally the Giants signed their guy. They get Jameis Winston. I was like, okay. I mean, I get it. Maybe a bridge quarterback. He's not great. In fact, he's not very good. One might even say he's bad. Okay. And you're like, okay, but it's a bad team. You figure maybe it's not a very good QB draft class. So you kind of get this stopgap to maybe, boost up your offensive line or maybe add another star wide receiver or a guy on the defensive side. And I'm like, okay, I get it. 2 years, $8 million. That's like nothing. And, it's fine. And then the Giants today were like, you know what? F you, Jameis Winston. I hate you. Russ Wilson. What are we doing? Okay, maybe the thought process, okay, Jameis Winston is your backup and Russ is your starter. My only thought is this. If you're just planning on not being good, like if you're like, okay, we don't want to they would never say this, but they don't want to compete because they want a really high draft pick to be able to hope that maybe Arch Manning or any of these quarterbacks coming out this next year, maybe that will be their guy. Okay. You don't sign Russell Wilson because you know what Russell Wilson is going to do? He's going to win them some games. He will. He's going to win them some games that they probably don't really deserve to win, some games that nobody really expects them to win, and he's probably going to ruin their draft. I'm predicting it now because look, Russ Wilson is cooked. He's terrible. He's not the quarterback he once was. And frankly, the quarterback that he was might have just been a product of the team he was playing for, albeit, not really anything he can control. He's a multiple-time Pro Bowler. He's a good quarterback. He won the Super Bowl. I'm not dogging on Russ Wilson. But Russ Wilson today is not Russ Wilson of, 5-10 years ago. So but he is still he's better than Jameis Winston. If they would have just said, you know what, F it, Jameis Winston, let's ride. Then I would be able to be like, okay, I get it. The Giants they're signing a guy to sign a guy. They got to they got to put somebody on tickets. They got to put somebody on the big screen. They got to sell jerseys. But Russell Wilson, it's like, first of all, I can't believe that this guy is even still getting contracts. I figured after Denver it was going to be done, but look, you know what? I guess there's a lot of desperate teams. It does make me continue to wonder then, on the other side of it, what the New York Jets are going to do. Because obviously they signed Justin Fields, but if he's really going to be your starter, boy, that's not great. That's not great. And we still also don't know where Aaron Rodgers is going to end up. Other than the retirement home because he's awful. But Yeah, and just a brief. Let me just. I know I said I was not going to spend too much time on the NFL, but I just got to rant about this for a little bit. To all the losers, I don't like to throw this kind of hatred around about other people's opinions, but moronic opinions about Aaron Rodgers somehow being quote scary. I'm sorry. Did we all just get like collective amnesia? Aaron Rodgers is awful. He's been awful since his last year in Green Bay. Like this whole there are people who are like, "Oh, I don't want him to go to Minnesota." Ooh, if he goes to Minnesota, they're going to be terrible. I can assure you they would be terrible because you think he's not better than Sam Darnold? First of all, no, I really don't actually, because Sam Darnold last year looked like a Pro Bowler. He looked like a quarterback that could actually play. Now, is he amazing? No, we saw that. But neither is Aaron Rodgers at this point. So get the guy who threw the Hail Mary in Thursday Night Football on Ford Field, get him out of your brain because he's no longer there. All right? This is like Miguel Cabrera the later years, okay? He might occasionally show you something, but he's not the guy he once was. He's not a leader. I really don't think a lot of his teammates like him. I really don't. Or certainly they're not. The fact that they might not be willing to speak about it says a lot more than anything they could say. And he's just not good. And you can go and look at the stats. You can go and look at his numbers since his last year of Green Bay to all the way to now. And if you want to say, well, he got hurt or, well, the Jets were a mess. Okay, he invited the mess, all right? He brought in Devontae Adams. He brought in Alan Lazard. He brought in Nathaniel Hackett. The mess is on him. It's like if you invite someone over to your home, okay, and they just utterly destroy your home, right? They break the furniture, they spill their drink, they're yelling and screaming at the neighbors. They destroy your home, and your home is just disheveled. By the end of it, you're like, oh my gosh, the home is so just disgusting and distraught. And then he leaves, and you're like, man. Could you? I don't know how he was able to survive in this home. I mean, look how destroyed it is. It's like you destroyed it. It was like it wasn't great, but it was a normal home, and then you just destroyed it. So there's my rant. There's my Aaron Rodgers rant. Yeah, there's a few things here on the Pistons here from you, Detroit fan. Let me just go through and read these. Tim Hardaway back. That's good. Hoping it's load management since after this game against the Spurs, the Pistons have a stretch. We definitely need K to be playing. You got the Cavs, Wolves, Thunder, Raptors, Grizzlies. Yeah, I mean, looking at that, that's about as far as I'm concerned, if you can get 3 out of 5 wins there, I'll be happy. Obviously. 3 out of 5 would be good. I think you could get the win at the Timberwolves. I think you could get the win at I'd hope you could get the win at the Raptors. And if you can just get one of the other wins, like one of those other games. Grizzlies are pretty good, but I think that's potentially a winnable game. Obviously, the Cavaliers, and the Thunder are the Thunder. But you played the Thunder pretty close last time you played them. And that Thunder game, I believe, is also going to be a national broadcast. That game got flexed. So ESPN and the media, at the very least, they seem to be at least wanting to show the Pistons a little bit more. So we'll see. We will see. All right. So actually, I want to do this first because I'd rather end on a somewhat positive note than on a negative note. Last 8 games. Yeah, that's right. We got the Bucks twice, as well as the Knicks. So yeah, it's gonna be tough. I think we could win. If we could win 5 out of those, obviously, that'd be successful. And I certainly think we could. If I had to pick, I think of those 8 games, I think you could get the win at the Wolves, get the win at the Raptors, get the win against the Knicks, get at least one win against the Bucks, because in a back-to-back game, it's hard for teams to sweep one way or the other. And I think you could be able to get the win against the Grizzlies at home. I think that's fair. And obviously, you could, if you drop the Grizzlies game, maybe you get the Cavs game, or you get both the Bucks games or something. But all right, so that's true. That's why this seeding battle. I was telling people, this seeding battle for Detroit, it's not going to end until the end of the year because we still got games against the Bucks, and they're back-to-back games. I wouldn't be surprised if that final game or one of those two games gets flexed. I would imagine it'd be the final game, depending on where the seeding is. Like, if that final game is like the winner is the 5 seed and the loser is the 6 seed, I wouldn't be surprised if ESPN or TNT picks that game up. I really wouldn't. All right, that's enough NBA for at least a second. I got to talk about this. All right, here we go. Look, I'm wearing my Red Wings shirt. I got to talk about the Detroit Red Wings because, look, last night they won the game, and not only did they win the game, they destroyed Utah, 5-1, complete blowout, 5 unanswered goals for Detroit, despite Peter Mrazek going down on injury. Look, it really doesn't change much for me. It really doesn't. It doesn't do anything for me. Like, literally nothing. So here's the thing. The Red Wings, despite that win, have had basically an awful weekend. They get murdered by the Vegas Golden Knights on Saturday night. Completely massacred. They got murdered by the Capitals. They've just been getting destroyed. Okay, like as soon as they play a team that's even remotely good, they usually just don't show up. Except for the one time earlier in the month when they shut out the Knights somehow. So I hate to do this because I usually don't do this. I'm usually not very active in engagement in the social media world, in the comments section, or that sort of thing. But I had an experience this weekend on r/Detroit Red Wings, and it made me think about something. So just to briefly talk about it, I got into a back and forth with I don't know what else to call him. Let's just say a Steve Yzerman apologist. Okay. Where I wrote down and made what I thought was a very thoughtful comment saying, hey, I really, just be perfectly honest with you, I really don't know why anybody still has hope in Steve Yzerman. That's my thought. I've already laid out, I think he should be fired. I'm done with Steve Yzerman. I don't think he's going to be able to get us out. He hasn't shown an ability to get us out. I'm done. All right. But I understand. Not everybody's going to be done. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to scream. I'm not going to make fun of people if they don't want to just cut his head off now. Fine. Understood. My only ask then is this. Why and what is it that you still have hope in? Because going down the list of things that teams are, or rather GMs are evaluated on, it's not great. All right? It's not great. So let's start one object at a time. First, we'll start with free agents and trades. So that's pro acquisitions, pro moves. How is the team as far as pros go? So let's start with the good. All right. Alex DeBrincat, excellent trade. You really didn't give up a whole lot for him. He's been a great player the past couple of years for us, goal scorer, all that. Good player, very good player even. Patrick Kane, he's been solid. This year, he's kind of fallen off from where he was last year, but pretty good player. Helps your offense for sure, especially on the power play. And in overtime and shootout and all that. Sure. And then as far as re-signs / signing his own guys, you have Lucas Raymond and Mo Sider and Dylan Larkin. Dylan Larkin obviously wasn't his draft pick, but he re-signs Dylan Larkin. He's a good player. I don't think he's amazing or, a superstar, but he's a good player. And good teams will have a Dylan Larkin on their team. So he's a solid addition. I like Dylan Larkin. I'm not opposed to keeping him around, but it is what it is. He is who he has shown us to be. Okay. Lucas Raymond and Mo Sider is 2 first draft picks. Both very good players. Mo Sider, one of the top defensemen, especially on a defensive side, among defensemen. Wish maybe you could get a little bit more from him offensively from a points perspective, but overall, very good player. Lucas Raymond, I think, is a superstar in the making, if not already. He's he's Lucas Raymond. He was on the Swedish team. He's a very good player. I believe he still leads the Red Wings in points. Very good player, goal scorer, assist maker. Great player. No qualms about Lucas Raymond. Outside of those 5 guys, everyone else has basically sucked. Like every other move has basically sucked as far as free agents and trade acquisitions. Peter Mrazek obviously just got hurt, so not looking great for that trade. But regardless of whether he got hurt, Peter Mrazek is awful. Peter Mrazek is terrible. Don't let the broadcast tell you otherwise. He's terrible. He's way past his prime. He had a prime back in the early 2010s, but he's terrible. Every other guy that he's signed, whether it's re-sign or whatever, has been terrible. All right? JT Compher, a guy that I liked last year, he's been terrible this year. Andrew Copp, way too much money for a guy that's coming off of like your third line, I think. I don't even know. Like he certainly way more money than he deserves. I'm blanking on his name. Justin Hall, Jeff Petrie, 2 of the worst defensemen in the NHL. Both Steve Yzerman additions, both to way too much money, which is any amount of money, basically. And that's not even including things like the Jake Wallman trade, where we attach a second-round pick to a guy who is now on a Stanley Cup caliber team in Edmonton and won San Jose a couple extra picks. Like, that one still doesn't make any sense, as well as a guy like Shane Gostisbehere, who's currently on a Carolina Hurricanes team, which is also a very good hockey team. And you even have David Perron, who is out in Ottawa, who is also a playoff team. So the guys that you let go off to teams that end up being better. And the guys that you bring in do not make your team better. So that's concerning. All right. Now you move on to coaching and administration, which is to say front office, scouting, all that stuff. If you just go online to the front office for the Detroit Red Wings, let me tell you something. It's really interesting how many of the people that have been hired in happen to be former teammates of Steve Yzerman. Isn't that just crazy? Isn't that just so weird? Isn't it weird? Let me just look it up. Let me look it up right now for you. Here we are. So isn't it just weird that, Nick Lindstrom is the VP of hockey operations, former Red Wing teammate of Steve Yzerman, and Chris Draper, assistant to the general manager and director of amateur scouting, also former teammate of Steve Yzerman. Nicholas Cronwell, European player development, also very briefly teammate of Steve Yzerman. Dan Cleary, assistant director of player development, also a former teammate of Steve Yzerman. Isn't that just a little strange? Regardless of whether you think these people are qualified, it is a little weird, right? Like, isn't it? It's never a good sign when your leaders are seemingly, giving passes to their friends, giving roles to their friends, regardless of, here's my thing. I would rather not know who any of these people are. Like, I would rather it be Steve Yzerman and Bob Magoo and Steve Spadoo and Andrew Bigelidoo. That's who I would rather. Completely nameless, faceless people who I have no idea who they are. Okay? Like, that would be ideal. But it is what it is. And also, interesting to note, Chris Yzerman is one of your pro scouts. So, in case you are a little silly and don't realize, they have the same last name because they are brothers. So, one of your pro scouts is Steve Yzerman's brother. So, interesting stuff. I know this happens everywhere, all across all sports, across all teams, good and bad. I understand. But when you're bad, it especially becomes evident. Especially when we're talking about pro scouting, which we just talked about how largely it's been terrible, and one of your pro scouts is your brother. Not great, Bob. Not great. And then as far as coaching goes, well, let's do a little bit of a rewind, shall we? Steve Yzerman comes in. Jeff Blashill is the coach. He keeps Blashill for a couple of years, then realizes, oh yeah, that's right, Jeff Blashill sucks, and nobody else would want him as a head coach. So he cuts ties with Jeff Blashill. And he brings in his guy, Derek Lalonde, who, interestingly enough, was from Tampa Bay. Now, where did Steve Yzerman come from again? It wasn't Ottawa. I'll give you a hint. It's in Florida, and it's not the Panthers. That's right, Tampa Bay. So he brings in one of his friends, basically, and he puts him as the head coach. And fast forward, he fires him because he was terrible. You have multiple collapses in the month of December, as well, obviously more of note in the month of March. Eventually, you fire him in season, and you bring in Todd McClellan, who was an assistant coach for the Red Wings back in the early 2000s. I believe he was an assistant coach to Mike Babcock in 2008. And I don't know if Steve Yzerman had left the Red Wings from at that point to go to Tampa Bay. I'm pretty sure he was still with the Red Wings. So, again, he already had a relationship with McClellan. So it's getting to the point where you're like, okay, he's bringing in guys that he likes, which is fine. I want him to bring in guys that he likes. But he's bringing in guys that he already had a relationship with, guys that are his friends, to get them jobs. And so far, the results on the ice have been bad. So whether or not these people are qualified, it's certainly not showing it. And so the big thing that people are really hanging their heads on is the drafting. No, Mike, look, you don't know hockey. You don't understand. He's drafted the best players ever. All of his prospects are going to be superstars. They're going to be amazing. Just you wait until Simon Edvinsson and Marco Kasper and Albert Johansson. Just you wait until they're all on the... That's right. They're already on the team. Now, that's not to say that Axel Sandin Pellikka and Nate Danielson and Carter Mazur, who also made his debut this year and then got hurt, it's not to say that any of those guys are going to be bad. I don't know if they're going to be bad. I don't know if they're going to be good. They're lottery tickets, essentially. They're get-out-of-jail-free cards. If you are in a bad spot because your roster's not working out, veterans are getting hurt, or they're not playing to the level that they're supposed to, then maybe some of your prospects work out and the team overperforms. The problem is, you can't just assume they're going to perform. This is the problem, because you get high on your own supply to the point where your asset management, where your use of those prospects in trades to get known commodities do not happen. Steve Yzerman has never actually made a trade where he had to give up a high-level prospect to bring in somebody right now that is good. And a lot of times that is the kind of move that you need to make to get over the hump. All right? Like, again, as much as Axel Sandin Pellikka might be, Wayne Gretzky meets Nick Lindstrom, okay, he's not that right now. All right? You want to know how I know he's not that right now? Because he's currently playing in Sweden. If he was so good, if he was out of this world good, he'd be on the roster. But he's not right now. So that means either he's not good yet, like he's not ready for it yet, or GM Steve Yzerman is so stupid that he doesn't realize that this player is so good he could be in the NHL right now and be Nick Lindstrom meets Wayne Gretzky, and he's just not bringing him in. So either way, you're kind of in a spot where things don't look great. Now, let's say you're totally on board. All right, you know what? It doesn't matter. Axel Sandin Pellikka is going to be the greatest player ever, and Nate Danielson is Steve Yzerman 2.0. Okay, fine. Let me just run by some stats for you. Some money puck stats. So I don't know. Some of these might have been updated, but as of when I looked this up yesterday, in 2019-2020, which was the first year of Steve Yzerman's team, right? So he gets hired in 2019, I believe, and then 2019-2020, that's the first season. I think. I could be wrong on that. Either way, that's around when he took over. I don't know. Yeah, because he got hired, I believe, in April of 2019. Yeah, I think that's right. So that team was in these advanced stats on 5-on-5, according to Money Puck. They were 30th in expected goal percentage, 31st in shot attempt percentage, 30th in expected goal differential, and 31st in actual goal differential. Not great. Not a great team to take over. Very bad team, one might even say. Now, 6 years later, mind you, not 1 year, not 2 years, not 3, not 4, not even 5. 6 years from that. Here's where the team stands in those exact same stats. 26th in expected goal percentage, 27th in shot attempts percentage, 26th in expected goal differential, 27th in actual goal differential. So basically, you managed to go from bottom of the league to bottom third of the league in 6 years. 6 years, 6 off seasons. To put it into perspective, in that span, every other team, including college teams, in college basketball and college football, in the state of Michigan, of the major teams, I should say. I'm qualifying this a lot for the college teams. Every single one of them has made the playoffs or will make the playoffs in the case of the Pistons. Think about that. Since 2019, the Pistons have went from worst team in the league, coming off of a playoff berth, like one of worst stretches in a long time, to now being a playoff team. The Lions went from one of the worst coaching hires and GM hires ever to a Super Bowl contender year in and year out at this point. And the Tigers went from the Al Avila nightmare to miraculous playoff success to a 1 win away from an ALCS berth. All in the span that Steve Yzerman has been here and moved the team about 3 or 4 spots up in those expected or in those advanced stats over the past 6 years. And even in the college ranks, Michigan State went to a New Year's Six bowl game and won it in football in the span that Steve Yzerman has gotten here and to now. And then in basketball, Michigan State went from not even playing in the tournament, obviously, because there was no tournament, to barely making it, to being awful for about 3 or 4 years there, to making the Sweet 16 twice and winning the Big Ten for the first time in 5 years. And even on the other end of it, Michigan football went from laughingstock, Jim Harbaugh needs to be fired, to dominant, winning a national championship while cheating, but winning a national championship, all in the span, getting a new head coach, all in that same span. And Michigan college basketball as well, going from Juwan Howard winning the Big Ten, I believe he won the Big Ten, and then getting to the Elite Eight, and now Dusty May potentially being able to do the same thing. I understand that they're all different sports. I understand that it's not apples to apples. But when you really just start to think, okay, when you really just sit and you look at the teams that you're actually in the same category with, in this bottom third, all right, in the bottom 6 teams, okay, one, 2, 3, 4, or bottom 7 teams, you are with, in expected goals percentage, you're with Buffalo, the Canadians, an expansion team in Seattle, the Anaheim Ducks, and the 2 tanking teams, San Jose and Chicago. And to make things even worse, you want to know what teams you're with in goal differential that are just below you? Montreal, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Nashville, and of course, the 2 tanking teams, San Jose and Chicago. You are closer to those teams. You're closer to Chicago, 6 teams away, than you are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You are closer to Chicago than you are to even a middling team like New York, the Rangers, that is, in goal differential. You are closer to Chicago than you are to Minnesota or New Jersey or any of these actual cup contending teams after 6 years. So I ask again, where and why do you even have hope? What is it that keeps you going? I genuinely want to know, because I've got nothing left. And if this hasn't completely black-pilled you in terms of hope, I really don't know what will. This is the best case I can make, other than just turning them on every other night. And we'll see if they get the win tonight against Colorado. I got a bad feeling that they won't. I'll just say that. But hey, you know what? Maybe Maybe this will make me look stupid, and they'll end up just beating the doors off of Colorado like 6-2 or something. Anyway. All right, so we got a lot of comments here. So Kosa emergency call up. Did he actually get called up? Did he actually though? I don't know why they're calling it an emergency call up. How about they just do this? They just do the call up. You know, Vasilevsky got called up in like a year. Just saying. A little over a year, but let's see. Larkin and Rasmussen are the only two Holland picks left with Veleno now gone. That's true. That's true. But he also extended Rasmussen. So again, like those guys, Larkin and Rasmussen, they're his problem now. So if they're, and I like Larkin, Rasmussen, you can take him or leave him, but he signed him, so they're his. Rasmussen is technically a Holland pick, but hard to give him that label, especially since Holland was the one who got rid of him. Yeah, right. I mean, you went and you traded for him. He's your guy now. Like I can't. It's the same thing with Larkin. It's like you extended him. He's your guy now. Like you can't say, oh well, it's Holland who left him with it. No, you decided to go back and get him, so that's on you. Berggren is a Holland pick. That's right. Yeah. Well, Berggren's awful too. So, Fox Sports Detroit guys are starting to be more former Yzerman teammates. Well, FanDuel Sports, not Fox Sports, but yes. Yeah, you got Osgood and Larry Murphy. Although those guys, Osgood and Murph have been, I don't know how long they've been on, I guess, FanDuel Sports Detroit. But yeah, I mean, like Mickey Redmond is the main one, obviously, but as he gets older and older, he is traveling less and less. I would like yesterday they had Danny DeKaiser in the color commentary, and I was like, man, things have really gotten bad if we got to put Danny DeKaiser in there. You know, like. Fun fact, Danny DeKaiser went to my high school. Fun fact. He was in high school before me, obviously, but he went to my high school. And he didn't make our school hockey team. That's a fun fact for you. Hey, you know what? We ended up being kind of right because he sucked in the NHL. Anyway, although that's one's different since it's not uncommon for foreign players to become broadcaster. Yeah, right, obviously. Trey Augustine being future goalie with Kosa, it's like I don't know how they feel. They still haven't called up Kosa. That's like, or maybe they have. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't a verge. Like the fact that he's not like here already is concerning. Not Augustine, but Kosa. But even still, like Augustine, who knows if they're being this conservative with their call up times for Sebastian Kosa, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't do the same thing with Trey Augustine. And being an MSU, I'm fine with since back-to-back Big Ten titles, currently leading state to potential national talent title. Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't really care. Like, yeah, sure, great. I guess I'd rather Michigan State win a national title in hockey than in nothing, but I won't be watching. So. Although, the more the Red Wings suck, the more I am feeling maybe I should just start watching Michigan State hockey. You know, maybe I should just bite the bullet and just say, you know what, pro hockey sucks. Like the Red Wings are awful. I can't watch them anymore. Give me the NHL or give me the NHL. Give me college hockey. I'm done. I can't do this. All right. So the final segment here I want to talk about is baseball. Yeah, now some Tigers. Got to talk about them. So I'll start this by just focusing on the Tigers, and that'll probably be its own little segment, own little clip, and then we'll just get into the rest of the NHL world. Okay, I was getting some notifications here. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing any news. For one, offseason left a lot to be desired, just to be frank. Not really a whole lot of additions in the offensive side. You got Gleyber Torres, but I mean, you already mentioned it, Detroit fan. Injuries to the outfield. Perez down, Vierling down, Meadows down. No real timetable for Meadows. He's on the 60-day IL, which is never good. I don't even know. I haven't heard anything about Matt Vierling or even about Wenzel Perez. But that's three guys in your outfield that are down, and you really didn't do a whole lot to secure some of the depth. And this was a part of the thing for me that I was advocating for, that why you needed to go out and bring in some of these guys. Somebody like a Santander or a Christian Walker to say, okay, we don't have to put Spencer Torkelson in right field. You know, we don't have to put Javi Baez in center. Not that they did that, but, you know, either way, like you bring in more guys and it just makes your team better. It just does. Even if they don't play, even if they are not, starter, like you have more depth, and we're seeing a little bit of a lack of depth. Now, to be fair, getting a bunch of injuries all in one key area in your field. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to overcome, but it just doesn't bode well for this offense, which has basically every year had slow starts and really has never been able to get out of that funk pretty much the whole time. Even last year when they made the playoffs, it wasn't really the offense that was doing it. It was the pitching. The pitching that was so unbelievable. Now, I want to flip it over and be a little bit more positive, okay? Because Green, Colt Keith, and even Spencer Torkelson, all of them had great springs. Every single one of them, especially Torkelson. He batted, and we'll see what it is by the end of the night. He batted over 300. And I think he needed to have a great spring. He had a great spring. So, maybe those three guys, those three young players, maybe they offer the offensive stability that you need for early March, late. Yeah, I guess for March and into April, and then maybe you get into May, and maybe you get Vierling back or Perez back, and your offense can sort of stabilize. I don't know, though. I really don't. I hope to see steps forward from Colt Keith, because I thought he had a really solid rookie year, pretty underrated rookie year as far as I'm concerned. Riley Green was an all-star last year. He's a very good defender, and he's also a really good hitter. So I'd like to see him really take that next step forward and be one of those upper echelon offensive outfielders. And then Spencer Torkelson, look, if he can go back to hitting 30 bombs and hitting above 250, ideally I would like him to hit at the 300. If he can hit the way he's hit in spring training, he will have won his right back in Detroit. Sometimes it takes some time for guys to develop, and maybe that 2020 COVID season, maybe it was just kind of weird, and it just took him a little bit to discover who he was. I don't know, but he's a guy that I really want to work, because he's easy to root for. Number 1 overall pick. We've seen the flashes, and we've seen it now in the spring, and we've seen it in the regular season even a couple of years ago. He's got potential. We just need to actually see him do it. This is his last shot. So let's see what he does. Now, on the other side, the pitching. I think the pitching of this team is elite. Superstar, top of the league, one of the best. Like I unironically, I believe that the Tigers have the best pitching staff in the American League right now. I really do. Skubal, Flaherty, Olsen, and Casey Mize, who had an amazing spring. Another one of those number 1 overall picks. Needed to have a good spring. He did. When he's healthy, he can be a good and effective pitcher. If you can have Casey Mize pitching at the level that he was this spring throughout the year, on top of the fact that you already have Skubal and you already have Flaherty and you already have Olsen, that's scary. On top of the fact that obviously Jackson Jobe, he's a guy to look out for. Did he make the roster as a starter? I don't even know. I don't think he made the roster. I don't remember. But either way, Jackson Jobe, he's in the peripherals one way or the other. So you got a really good starting 5, or you got a really good just pitching staff in general. Obviously, the bullpen speaks for itself. Guys like Will Vest, Jason Foley, the guy that they signed, Conley, from the Yankees. He's another really good player. You got guys in your pitching staff. The pitching, I think, is going to be absolutely killer. And if the Tigers want to get off to a strong start this season, they're going to have to rely on that pitching. Is that a recipe for success? I don't know. I mean, unfortunately, the beginning of their schedule doesn't start off great. They got to face the Dodgers in the opening series on the road, and they're going to start on national TV. So you know what? As far as my faith in this team goes, If they can go out on Thursday night and they can just battle with the Dodgers, not even necessarily win, but play a game where you're getting timely hits, you're coming back, you're sending the ball into the seats, pitchers are knocking down, Scooble's striking out Ohtani, striking out Freeman, guys on the defense are making plays. If you can look like a real exciting young baseball team, I can say, you know what? Even if you lose the game, I'm good with it. I don't know if they're going to lose the game. I don't know if they're going to win the game. When Scooble's on the mound, you got a good shot at winning. But again, the Dodgers are the reigning World Series champs for a reason. So, look, next week we'll talk about it. We'll talk about that first weekend for the Tigers. I do think that this team, because of that pitching staff, I do think they can make the playoffs. But if this offense continues to struggle, and especially if you still got to deal with Javi Baez, your playoff chances are going to go as far as he will take you. It's just not far. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting year for the Tigers. I really hope that last year was not a fluke. I think the pitching staff is legit. The question is the offense that we saw in spring training, especially from the young guys, is it possible that it takes that step that we've been waiting for it to take for a very long time? And obviously trades are still a thing, so you never know. During the season, maybe Scott Harris makes that move. In either way, it'll be fun. I love baseball. Hopefully the team is not so terrible it's embarrassing. But I expect guys like Mize, Keith, and Torkelson, if they can be contributors, the team will be something to look out for. I know, like, ESPN put us about in the middle, like 18th. Those injuries are going to be tough to overcome, especially early on. But once you get healthy, I think you could see something blossom in Detroit. Oh, no. The problem is, if you're putting Javi Baez at third, geez, if you thought his defense was bad as short, you're not gonna like it at third. I'll tell you that. That's not great. But yeah, I don't know what I think the problem was. And look, I really wanted Alex Bregman because he was somebody that you could just put at third base and you knew he was going to be playing third base. He didn't want to come here. Nothing you can do. That's why I also brought up guys like Christian Walker or Kyle McMahon. I think it's Kyle. I don't remember his first name. Out in Colorado. Or even, obviously he's not a third baseman, but Anthony Santander. I offered those guys with the thought process being, well, even if, they're not amazing for you, it's depth, right? If somebody else steps up, if Jace Young steps up, then fine. It's not a big deal. But because Jace Young did not step up, which is not all that much of a surprise, because he kind of got called up last year as a bit of an emergency call up. He really wasn't all that good either. But he still probably needs at least another few months in the minor leagues to really get himself into that hitting mode. I mean, obviously his brother's already a major league player, but we've yet to see if he is a major league hitter. Also, by the way, I did not even know Akil Baddoo was on this team. I don't is he actually? I don't think he played a single spring training game. Is it because he's been hurt all spring? I didn't even know he was on the team. I thought he was gone. Akil Baddoo, what are you doing in my team? So yeah. All right. So as we get into the MLB season, I do like to, and really with any season, I like to offer about 3 different storylines, 3 different things to follow going into the season, divided by the leagues. So first, the American League. Yankees dealing with an injury to Garrett Cole, dealing with an injury to LeMahieu, I believe. DJ LeMahieu, I believe, is hurt. A lot of players are hurt. basically for the Yankees. And they lose Juan Soto. So regardless of whoever it is, they've gotten a lot of injuries. And Juan Soto is gone. How good does Aaron Judge have to be to get them back to the World Series? Like, does he have to bat like 350? Like, it's gonna be tough. I wouldn't be surprised if the Yankees come out to a pretty slow start. This would be another year where they have a long postseason and they just don't get the job done. I like the loss of Garrett Cole to TJ. I like that. You've lost a lot of your guys offensively to injuries as well. I don't know. It's not a recipe for success, but Aaron Judge is very good. There's a reason he's the MVP of the league last year. And the Yankees, I think, are going to be good, but the question is how good? Are they going to be World Series good like they were last year? Or are they going to just be wait until we get healthy and maybe we'll make a run? Good. Speaking of teams that waiting until they can do something, Baltimore. Can we just do something at this point? Because I'm getting a little tired of it. I'm getting a little bit tired of the whole, look at our farm system, look at all of our young prospects, Jackson Holiday, all of these guys. I'm getting a little tired of it. You got a lot of nice young players, but you're not getting the job done. You're losing in the first round. You're not winning the division. What exactly is it that you do here? That's where I'm at. So I think, Baltimore's got a lot of pressure on them. And I don't think that people are really talking about the amount of pressure on Baltimore. They are not, they feel like they're kind of riding scot-free to me. And maybe I'm just totally wrong on that. That's the feeling I get at the very least. And another team, because I needed to have a third team, I decided to bring up the Texas Rangers. The Texas Rangers last year, completely injury riddled. No Jacob deGrom. You lost, I believe, Adolis Garcia for a time. Could be wrong on that. Their whole team basically got injured. But they got Wyatt Langford, who's a nice draft pick for them a couple of years ago, and he's been able. He wasn't amazing, but he's a nice young player. I believe they still have Corey Seager. They still got Marcus Semien. They still got players. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Rangers are a bounce back team this year. A lot of people forget they won the World Series a couple of years ago. I forget sometimes they won the World Series a couple of years ago. It's crazy. And then in the NL, you got the reigning World Series champs, the LA Dodgers. You bring in Blake Snell. You're bringing Roki Sasaki. Probably the best pitching staff in baseball. Are they just going to repeat? Shohei is going to be pitching again. And Shohei was already elite just as a DH. You're going to have pitching on just amazing. It's going to be amazing pitching. You're going to have amazing hitting because you got Shohei and you got Mookie and you got Freeman and you got Hernandez and you got Will Smith. You got a lot of guys. In a way, a lot of the pressure is on them just to repeat because I think everybody's just basically expecting, okay, well, you went out, you were already a World Series team without Shohei pitching. Now you're going to have him pitching. Are we just in for a Los Angeles Dodgers dynasty? We haven't had a dynasty in baseball since the Yankees. So maybe this is what will bring baseball back to the forefront. People don't like it, but it's true. When dynasties exist, the sport is at its most popular. When the Warriors and the Cavs were going at it in the NBA was very popular. Not as popular as it is now. Back in the day, in the 2000s and 90s, baseball was really popular because you had the Yankees, the Patriots in the 2000s and 2010s, and then the Chiefs in the late 2010s and into the early 2020s. Obviously, the NFL is always popular, but either way, maybe the Dodgers are the key. I don't know, but they keep spending money. And speaking of spending money, the Mets go out. They get Juan Soto after making a surprise playoff run. They did give the Dodgers a little bit of a run for their money there, albeit they didn't win the series. But here's my thing, all right? They spend all that money on Juan Soto, and I'm like, okay, Juan Soto is a great player. He's a superstar. He's a stud. He is amazing. Probably a top 5 player in the league. But I get nervous when it's the Mets, and maybe this is just anti-Mets bias, but something about when the Mets do stuff like this, something ain't right. Like something else will fall out. It'll be like maybe Juan Soto will be really good, which I expect him to be, but the pitching will suck. But defense will be terrible. But he'll get hurt or something. Like something unforeseen will happen to the Mets. This isn't really like sports commentary or analysis. This is just like I don't know. It's like every time the Mets do something where I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense that they're gonna be good. Things. They just things. I don't know. And finally, the Phillies. So since losing that World Series, they have gotten worse and worse and worse every year. Is Dave Dombrowski doing the Dave Dombrowski thing that he did in Detroit, where they say, I don't care about prospects, I don't care about depth, I'm gonna just go out and buy and trade the biggest players, the biggest names, superstars. I don't need to develop players. I'm just gonna go out and get players that are good right now. And that works for a little bit. But as the clock continues to roll, it slowly but surely deteriorates. And that once young stud, elite, established player core starts to become the age-old, well, they're in it, but you don't really have anybody else supporting them because you spent all that money on those guys, so you can't afford to keep your own guys, and your pitching staff is still really good, but the bullpen leaves a little bit to be desired potentially, stuff like that. So, look, I don't know. Dave Dombrowski, he's obviously one of the great general managers in the history of the game. And his tenure with the Tigers was not successful from a World Series standpoint, but it was successful from a team standpoint. The team was very good, and they had a lot of great players. But something about this man where I'm like, pro scouting, yes, but everything else scouting, not so much. And that can lead to some short-sighted decisions, and that can lead to a team that does not have a lot of depth and also is, well, a lot of sizzle, but no steak. So, should be in for a great season of baseball, and I'm looking forward to Thursday night. I'm sure everyone else is too. Dave Dombrowski is a great short-term GM, but not a long-term guy. I agree. Basically, since his time in Miami, he really has not been a good drafter, like ever. Like he wasn't a good drafter with us. That's for sure. Outside of obviously he drafted Justin Verlander and Austin Jackson, a couple other guys, but largely it wasn't great. Certainly didn't develop a lot of players. We'll say that. A lot of hitters specifically. But then after he left us, he was with the Red Sox when they won, but they were also, there was like the cheating scandal with the Apple Watches and all that. And also that team was, he didn't exactly inherit a very difficult situation. All he had to do was make a couple of nice pro moves, which again, he's good at. And there you go. And then you look at the Red Sox now where they don't have, they're kind of in this weird purgatory state because they didn't really draft really well or develop really well. And now they're sort of stuck. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Phillies don't end up that exact same way when he loses. Like every team that he's left worse than where they were. Like he's not setting the next guy up for success kind of thing. So, yeah, it's true. But all right then. So there's the show. So couple of show notes here looking ahead. So I am uncertain, but I have potential plans to do a live reaction of opening day and potentially plans to do either Michigan State's Ole Miss game or, assuming they win that game, the Elite Eight game. I'm not totally sure on any one of these three things, but those are things to keep an eye out for. So if you see it on your little subscription thing in the next couple of days, probably that day, then you'll know. But if you don't, then that's that. So once again, I didn't say it the first time. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening and hanging out and talking and chatting. It's always a great time. I do appreciate anybody for doing that. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button if you have not already to keep you in the loop on all things. We will be back for sure next Tuesday to break down all the sporting news of the week. And hopefully by then, the Tigers will be undefeated. I don't know. Or Michigan State will be going to the Final Four. That would be amazing. That would be great, incredible. But we'll see. Could be a very happy weekend. It could be a very sad weekend. Hopefully happy. I could use a happy sports weekend. That would be nice. So with that being said, have a good night, everybody, and I will talk to you all at the earliest, or at the latest, I should say, on Tuesday. See ya. Good night. See you later.